Hello. Good afternoon. I'd like to call this special open meeting of the United Laguna Woods Mutual Board of Directors, California Nonprofit Mutual Benefit Corporation. Today's date is Monday, August 12th, time 1:30 p.m. in Laguna Woods Village Boardroom and also virtually. I think this is televised meeting, as well as you can participate in Zoom, right? So Zoom link is on the agenda, so you may use that. And also you can ask a question via email to meeting@bmsinc.org anytime before the meeting is scheduled to begin or during the meeting. Please use the name of the meeting in the subject line of the email. Name and unit number must be included. The purpose of this meeting is to review the 2025 United Business Meeting, version 3. We have a quorum, so I've been already called the meeting. Is there any objection to approve the agenda as presented? Hearing none, it is approved. Well, this is another budget meeting. Starting from the month of March up until April, we had reviewed the existing service level of the 2024 business plan. And between then, the April, and May, and June, each department had discussed the financial implement for the work and project needed for the next year and submitted the proposals. The board had meetings in May and June to discuss components of the business of 2025 plan and also reserve plan, which is included in this agenda, I believe. Today, August 12th, the United Board is scheduled. Now we are meeting to review version 3 of the proposed budget. Based on input received at the meetings and subsequent discussions, staff refined the business plan and reserve plan as to be discussed during this meeting. And if we have any changes or revisions to be made today, then those will be reviewed and considered, and the resolution to adopted business plan will be on the Tuesday, September 10th, at the regular September board meeting. I think that time the business plan 2025 will be kind of concluded, right? So when the staff members' presentation starts, I again would like for you to listen through the point that Steve or Jose wants to stop, and then ask a question so that we can see the whole picture of it, rather than just stop any point, right? Okay. Is there any open forum speakers? Which the issues are not on the agenda today. Okay, no. Then let's move on to the item number 8, review of 2025 United Business Plan version 3. Can we start?
Yes, thank you very much. We will, well, starting off, thank you members of the board and the audience in general. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to present the budget today. I'll give Karina just a moment to go ahead and pull up slide 1 of our presentation. While she's doing that, actually, we'll go directly to slide 2. And looking at the calendar, Director Choi Ho, you did a fantastic job giving a recap in terms of where we stand. Everything you'd said is here on the calendar in the orange text. So for the United Board, we're here at the bottom under the business plan review for version 3, the televised, here on August 12th. And like you'd mentioned, back on or in the future for September 10th, that Tuesday is when the final budget is going to be brought before the board. And like you'd mentioned, if there's going to be any changes coming out of this meeting, we'll incorporate them for the business plan. Normally, this is kind of your latter version, so it's unusual to have changes after this point, but if there is something that comes up, we will take them into consideration and do as the board sees fit. So moving on to slide, please. 3, please. So this is something you've already seen a couple times and is consistent with some previous years. We have some external forces that affect your budget every year. For instance, inflation and utilities, those will continue to go up, as well as insurance. And then the fourth one on the list is workers' compensation insurance. I'll assure you that your number of claims has remained consistent over the past couple of years, but like your property insurance and every other category of insurance, it just continues to rise. And then lastly on that list is your compensation for both union and non-union wages. As everyone's well aware, in most places here in California, the wages continue to go up. You're seeing a minimum wage of $16 an hour. And in some of the food restaurants that you're eating at has gone up to $20 an hour. So those are the rates that we're competing with, and a lot of our individuals that work for the company are being paid at these arguably lower rates for entry-level positions. So moving on to slide number 4, we're going to start off and give a breakdown comparing our 25 proposed version 3 budget to your 2024. So the total basic assessment per man per month back in 2024 was $435.76. In 2025, we're proposing $522.91. Again, this is just the United component. That is an increase of $87.15 or 20%. And we all acknowledge that that is a significant year-over-year dollar amount. So we wanted to make certain that everyone is aware of the reasons why. So we have a list of some of the major impacts to the year-over-year budget here. There's 6 of them, and of these 6 items, they make up a total of 80% of that increase, or about $70 of the total 87. So starting off with the first one, we are budgeting an elimination, there's an elimination of the 2024 operating surplus, and we're replacing it with the 2024 estimated deficit. Said differently, in 2023, we expected to end the year above budget and have a basically income for the year, and as it turned out, it went the opposite direction by the time we ended the year. So we are not including any of that in surplus in this upcoming year's budget, and again, we're replacing it with the 2024 estimated deficit, given mostly because of the fact that we anticipated a large income coming from some chargeable services, and that is not going to be the case. Second on this list is damage restoration backlog revenue. Again, this is kind of a double whammy because in 2024, we anticipated significant revenue coming from some damage restoration. Not only are we not going to recover that full dollar amount in 2024, and we are therefore budgeting a deficit, as I mentioned a moment ago, that second line is, since it's not going to repeat, you are having a $1.1 million of revenue that is going to be absent from 2025. Again, it was a one-time occurrence in 2024, and since it's not reoccurring in 2025, you automatically have an increase of 1.1 or $14.83 per man per month. The third line is from a reserve contribution. So on an annual basis, the board is increasing the contributions to the reserves to the tune of between $14 and $15 per man per month. In 2024, it was a 15 year-over-year increase, and in 2025, we are asking for a $14 year-over-year increase. And again, as a reminder, the reason why we're increasing these dollar amounts is several years back, the contributions to the reserve fund were not only, the recommendation was to increase them by a small dollar amount, it was actually dropped. So, and then after 2 years, it was, that dollar amount was held consistent. So now what we're trying to do is replenish the reserve funds. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, some of the external forces, one of those items is utilities. Utilities, we're seeing a significant increase for 2025 to the tune of $647,000 or $8.54. We're also proposing some increases to damage restoration expenses to the tune of $540,000. What we are doing differently this year compared to last year is we're anticipating actuals. So what we've done is we've had overruns over the past couple of years because we've not budgeted it enough. So your damage restoration expenses aren't necessarily going up. They've been consistent for the past couple of years, but they've been coming in higher than we've been budgeting. So we're properly planning for that increase in 2025, and that's $7.12. And the last thing on the list is an increase in your shrub bed mowing cycles from 4 to 6 cycles per year to the tune of $485,000, and that is equivalent to $6.39 per man per month. So as a recap, once again, you're looking at $69.74. These are the 6 items that make up 80% of the change. And then taking your eyes back to the top, again, year-over-year increase, you're looking at $87.15, or a 20% year-over-year increase. Okay, we'll move on to slide number 5. So both slides 5 and 6 are a recap of the budget process. So I'll go quick because Director Choi Ho did a great job already in her chair remarks discussing everything. But really quickly, in February and April, the department heads got together and they presented to you your 2024 what you're getting for your current assessments. We went through and we gave an explanation of some vacant positions and then provided what we anticipate were going to be reasonable staffing levels for 2025. Next slide, please. So in April, again, we department heads met separately. We took all the input from everyone and we came up with an initial draft of the budget. And then we presented it to our CEO, Siobhan Foster, and we went through all the details and figured out what would be the best presentation. We made some cuts as would be expected. And then in June, we came forward and presented the first version. And then in July, we presented both a version 1 and version 2, and we reflected some of the changes that were requested of us. And then I will pause here. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jose Campos.
All right, before we go, are there any questions up until this point? We're going to get into the numbers here specifically, but about process or where we've come so far.
Me?
Yes,
Thank you,
Alice,
Mrs.
please.
Madam Chair. I think there's just a typo on slide 4. We don't mow the shrub beds, we service the shrub beds, right? Is that right, Kurt? Kurt's here.
Is that why he was
I think
cringing?
it's just a typo. Yeah. Thank you, that's all.
Okay. Sue, please.
I wanted to ask about the elimination of the, this is on slide 4, please. Elimination of 2024 budget operating surplus and addition of 2024 estimated deficit. So we are paying back what we borrowed, and then we had a deficit that we had to, on top of that, a deficit. And so that equals 1.4 million. I thought last year it was also like close to 1.2 million that we were in a deficit for as well. So my hope is that with these increases, do we have a fighting chance of staying on budget and not having to roll those deficits forward?
So that is the plan. Part of the issue that we had in 2023 was, as I mentioned earlier, the damage restoration. So we had 2 years in a row with higher than average rainfall. So we had a lot of, in the first half of the year, in both 2022 and 2023, you were having to take care of a lot of those water intrusion costs. So what we've done, once again, is on that line item, I believe, number 5, is we've increased the expense to accommodate for that. So we wouldn't, expect a third super heavy rainfall year, but we don't know, so we're going to go ahead and budget for it just in case. With regards to your earlier question, yes. So in 2024, we had budgeted for an operating surplus of $531,000. But again, we came in at a loss. So the removal of that 531, so that's not going to take place. And then we're anticipating approximately a $900,000 deficit in 2024. So the combination of those two is where we're getting that 1.4 number that you're seeing there on that, right below where it says major changes.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
may I ask one more? What
Yes.
is RPF? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Replacement fund, that's your reserves.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, Georgiana, please.
Yes, I was wondering, and this is just one small detail, so I don't expect you to know it off the top of your head. I was wondering how much leaf blowing is costing, because I was talking to someone, I think, at Third Mutual, and they had said, I think they eliminated it because it was costing them about $600,000 a year. And I'm happy to save that kind of money rather than blowing stuff from one side of the parking lot to another or something like that.
It's not 600,000, but we'll find out, and we'll have our analysts who are watching this do some looking into that, and we'll get you a number here in a couple minutes.
Any further question? I have a question. Slide 4 again. I happen to just compare to the version 2, and those all items are all same. And the last one increased shrub bed mowing cycle from 4 to 6 in the amount of $485,000. In version 2, that was turf removal in compliance with AB 72 plan. So was there any reason? Exactly the amount is same and the assessment increase is same, but the item has been changed. So is there any reason why?
Yeah, version
Can you
2
explain?
contained a mistake. What we're showing you on your screen right now are your operating changes. The turf removal is going to come out of reserves. So what you did instruct us to do is you instructed us to include 2 more cycles of shrub bed. So that's the $485,000. The numbers were correct. The description on version 2 was wrong.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Yes. Nancy, please.
There's an element in this budget with damage restoration that is quite significant. Maggie and I sit on the hearings, and we all state that the next business we're going to get into is the dry down business. Those fans are billed out by outside services at $50 an hour. Times 8 hours, that's $1,200 a day. I'm a personal witness to what's going on because I've had a water intrusion event. And one of the observations we make, and I bring forward to you all, is United uses it, Third uses it, Towers uses it. Why aren't we buying equipment and using Building E to store the equipment? Because the plumbers immediately need it. They immediately need to set up, and all it is one person coming in, setting up X number of units. And that's per unit, by the way, not all the 5 units, fans that were in my place. Each one is at $50 an hour. And then they pick them up, and they're gone. So it's not even a high-level employee that needs to do it. It's just basically like calling an Uber, get it over there, and then someday when the staff tests that the water meter is down, that is a huge source of revenue. The outside services have gone up, 20%? That's all, pretty much, huge, huge portion of it. So one of the things I pose to you is that and Maggie I think would concur, that we really need to take a very serious look and costing out, that we move from outside services on this, because this is something that we need every day, all day. We certainly need it when the rainy season hit. We're going to need it again. It's a never ending, and the village is 60 years old, so the water intrusion events are increasing, not decreasing. This is an opportunity for us.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that. And I know you mentioned this in the past, but one thing we'll make certain that we do is we'll include it in, it's not really a revenue, but we'll still include it in the the revenue ad hoc committee. And that way we'll make certain that we ferret out the costs, and then we're able to bring it to the board as needed.
Right. I did bring that up in the ad hoc too, because it's where do we actually get this in through the committee and up to an action plan.
Okay.
And thank you for that.
Any other question from the board? Any question from the resident? Yes, Dick.
Hi, Dick Rader, 270D. If I understand it correctly, you said that, and I think we've done this before, in the planning stage, we anticipate not filling all open positions. Is that correct?
We do include a vacancy factor in our operating budget, yes.
Right. And so we really have to depend on whether we have a good crystal ball. We already saw that crystal ball didn't work, at least with the damage restoration, et cetera. So I'm just wondering, what I've been reading in the papers just lately, I get both the Wall Street, New York Times, and it appears that companies at this time are laying people off, surprisingly. So I'm just wondering, what happens if we have to fill all those positions? Are we going to be in a position where we get into a deficit because we didn't have enough money to fund it?
Although those positions are approved, what United and the different boards approve is a funding amount. So once we get to that funding amount, then we take our foot off the accelerator and don't hire as high as we need to. So that is our plan. We've been making it work with a little bit less staffing, and that's what we will continue to do to make sure that we're on budget.
So it could happen, though, you reach the budget level, and you still would have open positions, but you will not be able to fill them, because otherwise it would be a cause of deficit.
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's up to the responsibility of each of the department heads to manage their budgets appropriately. So if they're going to, if come June they have a position that they want to fill, they know that they might need to delay themselves 1 to 2 months, and or they may need to hold off in other areas in order to compensate for that.
Thank you. Yes, Alice.
What is the FTE for 25?
What does FTE stand for?
No, what is the number of employees for which you are budgeting in 2025?
You're 2 slides ahead of me, but I'll answer it and say
Okay.
681,
681, as opposed to this year it was,
697. We'll go ahead and pick
okay,
up slide
so
8.
18 people down and more outside services used.
So here on your screen here, you can see
Yes.
it.
Okay, great.
There's a
There
graph,
we go.
yeah, going
Okay.
down, right, yeah.
But
Thank you.
From-
Yes, yes.
One more
Sue.
comment. I think when we say we're comparing ourselves to the $20 person who can flip burgers at Burger King or that sort of thing, I don't think that's really a very fair comparison, because these people get health insurance, they get, if they stay, they get retirement. I doubt there's very few people that are making $16 an hour. So I'm not sure that I get real concerned about that comparison when you do the total cost. I know when they're young, they want money in their pocket, but health insurance is a big deal.
Sure. Just keep in mind that anybody who works, I believe the marker is 32 hours. Anybody who works in excess of 32 hours per week will get full-time benefits. So correct. If you're comparing it to maybe someone who is working in and out, they might hold them to 28 hours in order to avoid paying benefits. So there is that out there as well, correct. But most of the employees that we hire, I don't want to say most, but a significant portion of the employees that we do hire are full-time, and that's what we want in order to get the work done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let us move on.
all right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to present version 3 of the budget. For those of us that have been following along here, if I can have slide 7, please. Just wanted to show you that really there haven't been very many changes from the previous versions of the budget. Operationally, there's a total bottom line no change actually, but just letting you know that we did have a couple of the line items did change. We do plan on less revenue than we anticipated originally for lease processing. We took a second look at that and saw that that was a bit overstated, but that was offset by some adjustments that we made to both water and to uncollectible accounts. Again, in the end, there was no bottom line change. Just wanted to make you aware that we're continuing to tweak the budget and make sure that we get you the best rate possible here. But as I was talking about on slide 8 here, there's been a shift to where we're heading towards outsourcing a little bit more. You see some of the FTEs here. We've been organically decreasing them over the years, but there's a lot of that has to do with some of the outsourcing that's going on. In 23 is when we first started accounting for that vacancy factor, so that was a good thing where we weren't collecting as much as as we weren't getting all those positions filled. For 2025, however, you see a bigger change, and that's going to be a reduction as a result of outsourcing golf maintenance. So that's something that's still in the works. It's something that we're still in the middle of contract negotiation, but the business plans do plan on less internal staffing on that. Also wanted to provide you a little bit of the history as far as United's basic assessment. There's no real sugarcoating this whatsoever. We are planning on a 2025 version 3 increase of 20%. That is the statutory maximum without having to jump through a lot of hoops, including votes. And I guess a little bit of history here. If we would have actually had one more year, you would have seen that your assessment stayed stagnant for 3 years. Over the years. And in a couple of later slides, I'll show you what kind of impact that's had on your reserves. But as they say, at some point you got to pay the piper, and that's where we are now. As we're taking a look at your finances and at your books, the recommendation is to make that 20% increase. So I did want to make you aware of that, and that's where our assessment history. But not only are members of United, but they're also members of GRF, and you also have that GRF responsibility. So here is that same chart, but this time including the GRF portion. Just so you know, GRF's portion increased by $9.97. They went up 4.4%. So combined, all in, you're at $761.10 for your monthly assessment, or 14.6%. And that's the big picture here. But as we're going to be taking a look at, we'll refer back to this particular slide often, and this is the summation of your entire business plan here on one page. We'll go through each of these lines individually, but letting you know we'll be talking about revenues, expenses. We'll get into it a little bit more as far as operating surplus and recovery. We're also going to talk about your reserve and contingency contributions and what that all means. But again, this is a top side. This is something that we're going to continue to come to, but we'll start here. And by the way, at the end of each of these segments, I'll pause for questions, but I will start with non-assessment revenue. Non-assessment revenue in 2024 was budgeted at a revenue of $39.15, and in 2025 it's $22.26. So less revenue means that your assessments will increase $16.89. As you can take a look here at the pie chart on your screen, you'll see that when we're talking about revenue, primarily we're going to be talking about fees and charges for services, in other words, your chargeable services. You also see laundry and collection fees and several of the other fees here that you see on this pie chart. But here, I'm more of a numbers guy. Here we see a chart that shows what we're talking about. And for those at home, and for those that maybe are just catching on here, or logging on, I should say, we do provide you 3 years worth of actuals on the individual categories. So the next several slides will show you 21, 22, and 23 actuals. We also show you last year's plan and the current year plan, and what all that means to your assessments in that last column. If it's a positive number, that means that your assessments will be increasing. A negative number will be a decrease to your assessments. And again, all these numbers are in thousands. And I'll be walking you through the changes from 2024 to 2025. So on the very top line, for example, you see merchandise sales. There's a decrease in revenue of $1,000, and that's going to be based on recent warehouse sales. And not a lot of dollar amounts, but just so you know, the warehouse does sell a couple of things that are unique to United, certain light bulbs and certain stove fixtures and that kind of thing. Again, not a lot of dollars, but we do see that trending downward. So we're anticipating $2,000 in sales, so a little bit of a change from last year. But the big headliner here is going to be that second item, the fees and charges. You'll see that there's less revenue of $1,197,000. And then this has to do with the backlog. And just to remind everyone what we're talking about for the backlog, when we were going through COVID and those kinds of things, there were some damage restorations. There were 314 cases that we still needed to figure out, to investigate, to have hearing determinations, to see who was going to be responsible for those. We anticipated that 75% of them were going to be done in 2024. However, when it came time to actual practice, 95% of them got done in 23. 298 of those cases were done in 2023, leaving us not very much for 2024. That led to a current unfavorable variance as we're taking a look at, but even so, those 314 cases were just a one-time thing. Once we're caught up, then this was to be removed out of your budget, and that's the reason that we're anticipating so much less revenue, is we're not anticipating having any more of those backlogged cases. So that's why the decrease there of $1,198,000. As far as laundry is concerned, laundry revenue decreased due to a downward trend in coin-operated laundry machine use within the community. You can see that it's not quite as high as the plan was. You can see from 2021, 22, and 23 actuals have been right around that $237,000 range. So that's the 3-year average that we use for that. We also have a revenue category called miscellaneous, and miscellaneous revenue decreased by $70,000 due to recent trends for lease processing fee revenue, and also a projected decrease in collection administrative fees. So again, this is some of the items that United collects as revenue, and we have been trending lower in both lease processing and collection fees. So that's why you see the decrease in revenue there. So again, unfortunately, we're looking at less revenue of $1,281,000, primarily due to the backlog of cases that are not going to be there for 2025. And I'll pause here for any questions that you may have on revenue.
Any questions? Yes, Sue, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I wanted to ask about the merchandise sales. I don't understand this decrease, and it's throughout here. Okay, so are we on the very first line of slide 14, merchandise sales? It says that, we had $3 last year that we thought we were going to collect. We think we're going to collect $2 this year. So are we plugging the dollar in to try to get back to the 3?
This is just showing us a change. What does that mean for your assessment? So in 2024, we anticipated collecting $3,000. In 2025, it'll be only $2,000. You're collecting less revenue. So altogether, as a collective assessment, your assessments will increase by $1,000.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
So,
So, yeah, the unit is in thousands, so you have to multiply by 1,000 by number.
Sorry, I said
Okay, all right. Any other question? Okay, let's
So-
move on, thank you.
The next section here is going to be on expenses. And again, last year, the total expenses equated to $308.68 per man per month. This year, your total expenses are $346.58 per man per month, an increase of $37. Again, we're going to be taking a look at each of these line items specifically, but pictorially, I wanted to show you what this looks like so you kind of get a grasp of magnitude. You'll see that 41% of all of your expenses have to do with employee compensation. That's going to be the majority of single item of where your expenses come from. Insurance is also a big bite of that at 19%, and utilities at another 19%. So you see here on here that you'll see a lot of different sources of expenditures, but we'll be going through them one by one, giving you some history as far as what's going on with them. First is going to be employee compensation. Here on your screen, you'll see that employee compensation has increased by $195,000 compared to last year, and that's 2.2%. And the planned wage adjustments were a little bit more than that, but you see a little bit of a reduction here due to partially offset due to a decrease in temporary help as the recovery efforts for the backlog of open chargeable tickets from prior years was completed in 2024. So that backlog that we keep talking about, we had gotten a lot of temp help to come in on the weekends to make sure that we had all of our paperwork in order for. Obviously, the revenue is gone from that because we've completed those. It also means that the temp help associated with helping us administer that program is also gone. So you saw a little bit of a reduction here in employee compensation. Employee expenses related to compensation is up 2.4%. And again, you're going to see the biggest factor here is what Steve talked about earlier. That's going to be that workers' compensation rate. That workers' compensation rate has been abnormally high. It seems like all insurances are going higher. Not that we're having any more instances of using it, but each of those is costing a little bit more. And insurance, again, as a whole, is going a little bit higher, with 2.4% increase or $87,000 on expenses related to compensation. On this next slide, you'll see materials and supplies. Materials and supplies has increased by $107,000, primarily due to the cost of higher materials. And we don't use one particular inflation number. As we're going through here, we actually have each of our department heads come and take a look because, as we've talked to you in the past, there are certain areas that are more costly than others that are growing at a faster rate, particularly petroleum-based products. So those things that you see, the irrigation heads, and those kinds of things, you see a fairly significant increase there. We saw a lot of increases in appliance costs and those, but all in all, it's $107,000. It's a little bit of over 12% as far as what we're looking at on a year-over-year increase in materials. And then the rest of this chart shows you all of your different utilities. You see that electricity has increased by $75,000 due to more usage based on recent trends. And just so you know, current rates are currently budgeted right at 29 cents per kilowatt hour. So you're still on a kilowatt hour basis doing decent, but based on your usage, that's going to go up to $236,000 or a $75,000 increase. You'll see for both water and sewer, El Toro Water District provides us every July with their updated rates for the following year, and they've gone ahead and done that. You'll see quite a big spike here for sewer, and that is because their projected rates, they incorporate both a fixed and a variable cost, and their fixed rates have increased by 14%. So they are increasing the rates to take care of their infrastructure and, of course, passing that along to us. And that's a $274,000 increase for sewer, a $125,000 increase for water. Again, variable rates for water have increased 8%, and the cost for water, for the fixed portion, had increased 15%. They've given us their rates just recently. They gave it to us in July, and we're looking at $3.26 for indoor use and $3.63 for outdoor use. But these are quite a bit higher than they have been in previous years. Additionally, trash, as you know, Laguna Woods Village is in a franchise agreement with our current provider. When that current provider came on, they were making up for some of the lower rates that had been in the past. Contractually, they had a 5-year plan where there were going to be some higher than normal rates. I'm happy to say that 2025 is the last year of those rates. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it is the last year of those rates. So they're looking at a 20% increase contractually for 2025. That's what it is in the budget. And thereafter, they're supposed to go down to something a lot closer to CPI. Mm-hmm. But for 25, it's 5% or $173,000. Telephone, there's not really much of a change. Not a lot of money spent on analog phones inside elevators within the mutual, but there you see it on your screen. On this next slide here, you'll see legal fees. Legal fees are decreasing by $16,000 based on recent trends of resident-related delinquencies and compliance issues. So that's good to see anytime we can see a decrease. In professional fees, you see an increase of $29,000, and that has to do with your reserve study. So you have a reserve specialist come on site and take a look at your assets for which you have responsibility over the next 30 years. Mm-hmm. They do an on-site physical inspection once every 3 years. In 2025, will be that once every 3 years. So when they come on site, it's a little bit more costly. That's why you see an increase here. That price will drop in years 2 and 3 as they continue to do what they call a desktop appraisal. But by Davis Sterling, you have to have them on site once every 3 years. Equipment rental is relatively minimal, but there is a small increase here for man lifts, storage containers, and other equipment that we use primarily in your carpentry department. So that went from 10,000 to 11,000. But the biggest single item here on this page anyway is going to be outside service. You see a big increase here of $1,582,000, and we have a couple of different things going on. One is going to be the damage restoration that we were talking about. So every month in finance, when we meet together, we talk to you and we say, yeah, you know, damage restoration was more than we anticipated. The truth is that the budget is probably not where it needs to be. You can take a look there and see your 2021 actuals, 22 actuals, 23 actuals. You'll see how they're continuously climbing, and you'll see that that plan for 24 is quite low. Again, at some point we have to accept what our trends are. Your infrastructure is continuing to age. To that end, we've put in an additional $540,000 in damage restoration and an additional $210,000 in plumbing related. That's $750,000 having to do with water that frankly needs to be in your budget to account for how your actuals are coming in. In addition to that, the way your buildings are situated, we've also included $225,000 extra dollars for fumigation events. In 2024, we budgeted for 33 buildings. In 2025, we budgeted for 56 buildings. So I know this is something that Manuel has talked about as we've come in and made these presentations, but just want to remind everyone we're going from 33 buildings to 56 buildings and an additional cost of $225,000. And lastly, that's also in this area we've already talked about and discussed, and that's going to be the additional shrub bed cycles. That's going to go from 4 cycles to 6 cycles. That comes at a cost of $485,000. So all of those combined are what make up that line of $1,582,000. The last item on this slide is repairs and maintenance, and there's a $5,000 increase for elevator or lift maintenance based on their contracted amounts. And I have just a couple more slides on expenses, but we'll go through them here. One of them is a category that we call other operating expenses, and I dislike other because you're going to ask me what's in there. But we do provide that all on your agenda, but I'll just provide you a summary here. This area includes uniforms and postage and training and education and board relations and several other things that make up that $167,000. It did increase by 10% as each of those incrementally increased as well. Income taxes, we remain steady at $6,000 as a contingency. You look at your actuals there, and that's roughly where we have been over the last few years. And property insurance. Property insurance, as you know, United has combined with Third, and so the good news here is that there's going to be a reduction in property insurance. So you're going to be reducing the budget by $750,000. This is not an individual line item in your basic assessment because each owner pays their own share of property taxes. But again, as a whole, United will save $750,000. If you pencil it out, that equates to about $10 per man or per month, although your results will vary depending on the size of your unit and when you got it. But regardless, it's still good news that we're able to share in this property insurance, have combined coverage limits with Third, and be able to save $750,000. So that's a good thing. Yeah. As far as your other kind of insurance, which would be hazard and liability, that amount did increase by $163,000 based on your 6/1 renewal that you just entered into. So that's a little bit of an increase. And my last slide on expenses is on your screen now, and that is going to be cost allocations. And cost allocations is the net result of interdepartmental allocations. Basically, it's going to be your HR, your IT, your vehicle maintenance, those kinds of things that are coming over. There is a slight increase on that of $60,000 compared to the prior year. And the last two items are going to be uncollectible accounts, which remain steady at $20,000, as well as gain and losses, which has almost no activity in it. Again, so expenses are going from 28 million down or up to 30 million, 30,800,000. an increase of $2,127,000. And I'll pause here for questions that you have on expenses.
Right. All right, thank you. Any question? Yes. Tony, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you explain to me, my ignorance here, I'm trying to grapple with this cost allocations. Could you explain that to me, please?
Sure. Cost allocations are everything, for example, HR is billed to GRF. And then GRF takes this cost of these shared resources, whether it be HR or IT or vehicle maintenance, and then they allocate a little bit of that cost over to United and Third. So this is what the total is. It's $1,356,000. Again, they do this every year. There's a slight increase as their costs have gone up. They're passing on a few extra costs as well. Total change there was $60,000.
Yes. Nancy, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple quick questions with respect to the line items on the expense category. One of them is waste management. As I recall, we are paying them to filter recyclables. And in theory, they were going to be reimbursing us for the value of those recycled items. Having said that, we have a lot of people in the village who love to dumpster dive or have their neighbors save all this stuff. Literally. I mean, we've told them, please don't do it, it's dangerous. Can't get them to stop. They do what they do. So I'd like to know if, in fact, that's still true, that we are paying them to sift through our waste, pull out the recyclables. Are we paying for this? And in theory, they were going to be reimbursing us the value of the recycles, whatever that was, by weight or.
We have Director Carroll here who handles that contract and can help us out.
He's intimately familiar with trash. Yes.
Right. Exactly.
Welcome.
Yeah, there is no revenue coming back to us from CR&R. They may take that into consideration when they're establishing rates regionally, how much they're going to bring in as far as recyclables, but there is no revenue source for that.
Are we, Robert, are we paying for them to sift? I mean, I remember a presentation some time ago about this, that they were, I don't think it was you. We're pulling it out, so on and so forth. And we actually represented to the residents, and don't take away from us because we're going to actually save money, get money back. So is that part of their contract that they're supposed to be screening this?
Their methods change through time, but for now, I'm not sure exactly what they're doing as far as that, if they're feeding it, going through some type of material recovery process, or if they're just recycling our blue container recyclables.
Yes, my uptake on this would be, let's not spend the money for them to be doing this if we're not getting anything back. And so that was why I raised that particular point. That's it on that item. The other element was on outside services. Yeah, it's a pretty big increase and it's a pretty big number. Mm-hmm. And besides STAT and ATI, who else are we in just broad stroke? Who are we using for outside services and what purpose? Because some of these items, I think staff has said, hey, we can be doing this. We don't need to be picking up the phone and calling outside services. And that may be, Carlos is, in terms of who the supervisors are on picking up the phone and making these assignments. So that may be a management operations issue, which is not for this forum.
So the question is, what's included in this outside service? And I will pause here before I answer and let you know that what we're looking on your screen is operating only. So, for example, roofers are outside service, but that's not in
but not
here.
in there. That's my question.
Yeah, the ones that are in here have to do with plumbing, the damage restoration when they come in, and just like you were talking about, dry everything down and make sure that the water's up off the ground and those kinds of things. So those are outside services, as well as after-hours plumbers that come in. That's also in our operations. As we talked about, the fumigation, the tenting that goes through, that's also included in our outside services, as well as any housing or hotel stays that we provide during that day. And then We've included $485,000 of outside service to do the shrub bed cycles.
Okay, my observation or recommendation from a business standpoint is we need to take a serious look at the assignments. That's going to be a lot of money, because even if we have union people doing some of these tasks, and even if it's some overtime involved, it's going to be cheaper for our staff to do it.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Any other question? Yes, Sue.
Okay, if we could go back, please, to slide 16, and the employee compensation and related increased 41%. That's darn close to 50%. So that's like a $5 million increase, is it not?
I'm sorry, the purpose of this slide was just to show you in magnitude. Out of all of your expenses,
Okay.
employees have 41%.
Oh, thank heavens, I
So-
about had a heart attack over that one. Okay.
Just to make sure we're understanding each other, employee compensation went up 2.2%.
Right.
2.2, that's a whole lot better than the 41.
Right.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
explaining that.
And Madam Chair, I think Carlos had a comment on that last.
Yes, Carlos.
Yes, thank you. In terms of work being done by staff, can they actually do other work that's currently being done by outside contractors? For the most part, it's a no, because our skill set is far below than what you would get from a licensed electrician, a licensed plumber. Are there maybe some opportunities, maybe as you mentioned, the fans, but there is a whole system behind the damage restoration and the asbestos removal and all that, but that's something that would have to be looked at. But a lot of what we do outside services, it's beyond the skill set of the staff that we have, so we aren't able to do it, but I'm not saying that there aren't any opportunities, but we'll have to take a close look at those.
Thank you. It's helpful. Yes, Alison, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we have fewer employees, but getting more money. But that is not evenly distributed across the workforce, is it?
No.
It would be according to performance, and so some people may not get 2%, they might get 1%, somebody else might get 3 or 4. Okay, just so we understand that there's a whole performance review process behind that, and it's not like a flat pancake that everybody's getting another pancake. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? Any other question from the resident? All right, okay, let's move on, please.
All right, then brings us to slide 22. Slide 22 is going to be the operating surplus recovery that we were talking about a little bit earlier. This is what Steve opened with. And again, here on your screen, you'll see that in 2024, we had planned a surplus. That means that we purposely undercollected in your 2024 assessments, thereby giving the money back. So we had planned that there was going to be a surplus for 2024 available. In a couple of slides, I'll show you what that looks like in your contingency fund, but just so you know, that's what we had planned. Unfortunately, as we keep talking about this damage restoration backlog, we found that we're going to be short of that by about $900,000. We're going to be short of that number by $900,000, and that is what equates to that $11.86. So whereas last year we got a credit of $7, this year we're paying that $900,000 or $11. The difference there is an $18. It's a big swing to your assessments. I did want to call that out and let you know that that's where it came from. And that's where we are on that. The effort is going to be to collect that $900,000. That way we're not carrying any further surpluses or deficits over into future years. And again, if you'll allow me some grace here, I'll talk about that and show you some more details once we get to contingency contributions. But that is what that operating is about. The next line here is net operating, so that just adds those first 3 lines. It's just a mathematical equation to add those 3 lines, which leads us to reserve contributions. Just like we talked about, we do have a reserve specialist that comes and helps us do your reserves. We talked last year, and last year we had made a plan wherein we would have an increase of $15 per man or per month every year for the next few years. Based on the fact that we hit that 20% maximum, we were only able to go $14. So we'll take a look at what that looks like. But we did get that reserve study back. Here is the summary of it. And to let you know, one of the things that they measure is what percent funded you are. I will say that this meter stick is the same stick that they use, whether your association is just a few units or if it's thousands and thousands of units like yours is. Our goal is to shoot for to be at least in that medium range, and that what they say is how close or how much of a risk are you for a special assessment. I will say that you have a lot of money in the bank. You can see that top line there. We're projecting that you're going to start next year with $14.4 million in reserves. But that measurement did come out to 29.8% funded. So you're just under that medium range at 29.8% funding. So this is what your reserve study looks like. What's interesting about that, and I don't expect you to read that small of font, but I just wanted to show you pictorially. Here are the next 30 years of what we're looking at. We continued that trend, that $15 increase per year till about year 2032. Now, when we looked at this last year, we thought that that $15 trend was only going to continue for 5 years. And the reason that that has increased to longer than that is because last year we weren't aware of this whole AB 1572, the turf reduction requirement. So this plan includes $7.7 million of spend over the course of the next 5 years to be in there as that's what we feel is going to be required over the course of the next several years. So that has caused that $15 increase be pushed out in a few additional years. Well, once we do get that to that 2032, then the increases calm down a little bit more at about 1.8% per year. But this is a high-level view of what the plan is for the next 30 years, barring any changes, barring any changes in the legislature or maybe extensions to that turf reduction or what have. This is the plan. On this next slide makes it a little bit more easy to read. This is going to be your reserve fund balances. So here from 2018 to 2023, you see how much money you had in your reserves. You will see that systematically United is spending more than it's bringing in, with one exception, and that's going to be 2020. And of course, that had to do with COVID. We didn't spend as much as we thought we were going to. But every year, United is spending down their reserves, and that, of course, is dangerous. You also see the assessments. In 2018, they were 143. In 2019, 148. They were going up systematically, and in 2020, instead of doing that, there was actually a decrease, and then it was held down for a couple of years. And so these are some of the actions that have placed us where we are now. And so now we have to come up with a plan of how we're going to make up for that and start to put money back into your reserves. And again, it's not a pleasant journey, but it's definitely doable. We're looking at, again, about $15 increases for the next 8 or so years. And then those decreases would calm down a little bit more. So I will pause here and answer any questions that you may have on reserves.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Well, I just, based on this is not good that we're just hanging in the weak category, at the high end of the weak category at 29 point whatever in the reserve funding. And so, I think we should really consider whether or not we want to talk about the 5-year $15. In order for this to even go back up into the yellow, we have to, mid-yellow, we have to keep it that $15 for many, many years. So I don't think that $15 is hurtful in building a decent reserve. And so I would encourage us to think about not saying that we're going to end this in 5 years. Third charges lots more than what we do for their reserves to keep a balance and to be safe. It's kind of heart-stopping how many times we had to go dip into the reserve and then lose our investment money this year.
And so, I would hope our board would talk about that and see what we want to do.
Sure. Yes, Nancy, please.
Well, this is sort of ad hoc, but I've talked about this before. One of our options is to develop a reserve fund fee when people buy in. We can't do a facilities use fee, but we have an aging infrastructure and we have a lot of amenities. And for all these amenities, which our survey, of course, shows some of these sports aren't as important as they always profess to be.
Into the microphone.
Oh.
Yeah, talk into it, please.
So sorry. So I think we have an alternative thing we should be thinking about. And again, this is coming through ad hoc, but
Yes,
preceding ad hoc, we talked about this, or
of course.
we raised this. And we need to give serious thought about it. There isn't a legislative restriction
Yes.
for doing a reserve fund fee in buying in here, and a co-op. And we have a lot of arguments for it. We're maintaining things, if it's an original, so on and so forth. 60 years old, we have all these amenities. So I think that one of the things we might do is, I don't know if I want to make a motion on this, but we can talk about this. I'll field this through Mickey, which is we may want staff to give us some suggestion about what that might be and how it plays out. In other words, how does the numbers crunch to rebalance our desperate reserve situation and have light shining instead of just gray clouds? And
Well,
what that number might be, is it?
Of course, yeah. I think we are considering for it, and we are continuously talking about. And I don't think at this time we have any bright idea, right? But to continue to, everyone agrees that we need to increase our reserve fund. So, but again, this year, we maximized our assessment fee. So in the future, gradually, hopefully that.
I don't think this is I don't think this is a long-term game plan. I mean, it's a
No,
long-term
not really.
solution, but I think it's
Sure.
something we have to start crunching numbers now,
Right
like
away.
what that might look like.
Of course, yes. Thank you. Yes, Alison, please.
I was doing a little research, historical research in the community with our 60th anniversary coming up. And back in 1970, I found at the History Center that the amount of money that was put into reserves in 1970 was $5 per man or per month. So $5 back in 1970 is $40.68 today. So even back then, they
Yeah.
knew that they had to put significant money aside for future building projects, for future repairs, and so on. So this is not a new problem.
Right.
It's not a new situation. So
Exactly.
thought that was an interesting number to come across. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If I
Yeah,
may,
okay.
I'd just like to echo a little bit about what Nancy said. Could we have slide 24, please? When the reserve specialist helps us put together a plan, they have a recommendation, right? Their recommendation is that we get to where we
Right.
need to be and that we get there as soon as possible. So about halfway down here on your screen, you'll see that their recommendation for 2025 is actually a contribution of $15,460,000. Now
Right.
they said, however, if you want to be a little bit different and just make sure that you have the very next line, the alternate minimum allocations to keep the reserves
Right.
above zero. And that's where we're at. This is the contribution that we're seeking for 2025 is that $14,054,000. That's what represents that $14. So this is really base. They wanted to get us up to the green and they wanted to get us there now. We're taking a little bit more of a systematic approach. Ultimately, today, you're just approving a plan in theory for the next
Right.
30 years, and each subsequent board will take a look at theirs individually. But we know that. This is something we're continuously looking at and are going to make such recommendations as the time comes.
Okay, thank you. Dick?
Thank you. I'd like to make a suggestion. The ad hoc committee to try to find new ways to raise revenue for United We have two proposals that have come forward, one of which was just mentioned, an infrastructure fee. But Allison came up with another one, which I think was strikingly very interesting. And my suggestion is that, if I recall correctly, the ad hoc committee has 90 days. Why wait? You got two proposals. The other ones are not going to raise a lot of money. We can continue thinking about new ideas and working on those other ones. My suggestion is to start working forward with the two major ones that will bring in a lot of dollars and start investigating them now. It's not going to affect the budget right away,
Right?
but it will bring in a lot of money, and you may not have a deficit if you get one of these things in place in time for, by the end of next year.
Thank you.
That's a good point.
Okay, Nancy. Okay.
Yeah, we actually have a meeting, I think, this week on that, but I do
Thursday?
think that's fair, and we have closed session tomorrow afternoon, so we can talk about that. But I concur. The time is passing quickly, and this has been batted around. I've been hearing this for some years now, but it's now urgent.
Right. Thank you. Yes, we all agree with that. Any other question? Okay. Is that?
All right. Moving on to the contingency contributions on slide 27. So here you'll see that last year's contingency contribution was set at $2 per matter per month. The recommendation for 2025 is $1.50. Again, being governed by that 20% maximum is how come we saw a decrease there. But let's take a look at some numbers here. And again, we'll show you over the last several years as far as where this fund has been. It's been as high as 2.6 million, as low as about 400,000. I will say that the contingency fund is not a fund that's required by law, but it's your savings account. It's money that's nice to have. It's always a good thing. But we've included a couple of extra columns here just kind of to give us a little bit of insight as far as what's going on with these. And I'll start with that second and last column that's called operating fund transfer. And when United runs a surplus or a deficit, we want to net that against the contingency fund. And unfortunately, in 2023, you ran a deficit of $742,000. So just at your most recent finance meeting, you approved the transfer of the contingency fund to fund that deficit. And that's what you see here under that 2024 line. We are saying that in 2025, you'll end up having to transfer the deficit that you're running this year. We project that deficit to be $900,000, and that's why you see the decrease there of $900,000. Now, to offset that, again, as we were talking earlier, we included that $11 and some cents. That's that same $900,000 surplus recovery. That's why we're putting that into your budget. That way, we're able to fund that anticipated deficit that we're running this year. So that's what it all looks like. It's what it all pencils down to. We're looking at having a projected balance by the end of this year about $600,000, and by the end of next year about $700,000. Historically, we've used this fund. In 2018, we used it for damage restoration.
Jose, could you speak up just a little bit, please?
My apologies. I'll get closer to the microphone. Historically, I wanted to let you know that we have used these funds for damage restoration. In 2018, we used about 1.4. That expenditure that you see there, the majority of that was damage restoration. Now, instead of just funding it out of a contingency fund, we include it in your operating fund, which makes more sense. It's something that happens every year. It's really part of your operations, so we correctly put that in your operations. In 2019, here you see a fairly big expense. $2.7 million of that had to do with solar energy to get yourself all situated. That, of course, pays dividends as we move forward. But those are the types of items that are nice to have a contingency fund available to you. If you're able to spend $1 today to save many more later, then that might be something that interests you. And that's one of the powerful reasons to have a fund such as a contingency fund. So anyway, just wanted to give you some history of how this has been used. In 2020, it's the last of the expenditures there, also for damage restoration, having to do with moisture intrusion. So that's how historically this fund has been used, and that's where we're going on it. Any questions on the contingency fund?
But no question, but I think it's a good idea that, in the previous versions, we thought about that we will not increase any contingency fee because of our deficit. But it is the reason why that we need to continue to build a contingency fund also, not only to reserve fund, but also the contingency, just emergency. Hopefully that we don't have to use anything, just pile up, but, you never know, so it's good. All right, any other question or comment? Okay, move on.
And the
please.
last fund here that we'll talk about is the property taxes fund, and this is just to make you aware. This is property taxes we collect on your behalf, and then we turn it on over to the County of Orange. So that plan for 2025 is $14.7 million. And again, this is just to pass through something that goes directly from your residence over to the County of Orange as our portion. So again, I'll sum it up to where we began. Here is your business plan as we've been taking a look at. These are all the different items that we've talked about. We've talked about revenues and expenses. We've talked about that surplus recovery and also the contributions to reserve and contingency funds. Additionally, you have a GRF component.
Yes.
Again, so your total basic assessment is going to increase, or is proposed to increase, $97.12. As there. And I'll end my presentation exactly where we began it. And these are some big numbers that we've been talking about. We've been talking about all the different items that make up your budget. But at the end of the day, it's these 6 items that you see on your screen here that make up for 80% of your increase. And that is going to be that elimination of that budgeted operating surplus. It's going to be the one-time conclusion of the damage restoration backlog. It's going to be that proposed $14 change to reserve contributions. It's going to be utilities rates, more damage restoration services, and then more shrub bed cycles. So again, those make up the vast majority of what we've been talking about. And with that, we'll open that up to any other questions that you might have on your business plan.
Yes.
I have a question, and it probably will be discussed when we do the reserves, but the increase in damage restoration expenses, we think it's going to go up $540,000. I'm sure we all would rather put that money into roofs or whatever in order to stop having these damage restoration expenses. And I'm just guessing on where these problems are, but is there any way to pull that down if we're proactive in other areas?
And as a reminder, we talked a little bit about how this area has consistently
Yes.
been at that level.
Exactly.
Our budget is just finally getting around to acknowledging that and putting that in your budget so we don't have any future overruns. The truth is, if there's damage if there's moisture intrusion, of course we're going to get out there and we're going to fix it and incur the necessary expense. So this is the budget catching up to what's actually happening.
Yeah. The reason why that we have to increase huge amount of assessment fee this year is because of the previous year's damage restoration. So we don't want to go back to that stage
Exactly.
in the future, you see. So it's a good idea that we set up this one. Yes.
Yeah, every time you see on the budget damage restoration, and what's the other one, M&C, where it's a construction, that's our infrastructure deficit,
exactly.
period. Just think infrastructure, infrastructure. That's why we need to move to
Right.
address, to solve
Yeah.
that problem and get some money for it, big money.
Right. Any other questions, comment?
There's just one other thing, too.
Oh, yes, Georgiana.
Okay, sorry, yeah. Is there any type of proactive program that we have at all looking at some of these issues before they happen, before someone's flooded or something like that? Because some things may exist that give out after a certain period of time. Do we have anything like that going at all? Do you know, so in a proactive way rather than waiting till it happens?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few proactive programs which oftentimes we overlook, but everything from the rain gutter cleaning to the epoxy lining to maintaining a good schedule. We are looking at other facets such as quality assurance. So some of the departments have been moving forward with quality control inspectors, but we're trying to look at, as part of our strategic plan, an overall method as to quality control. But we do have some proactive programs in place today. You're welcome.
Talking about prevention, right, Georgiana? Prevention, problem prevention.
Yeah. All right. Any other question, comment from the directors?
So we wanted to address Director Willis's comment with regards to the leaf blowing. If maybe we can have Director Wyman come up and discuss.
Oh, sure.
So-
Yes, yes. Please.
Yes, as far as the blowing goes, there is, if you look at the budget, there is 60,000 worth of labor hours attributed to blowing, but that goes along with the mowing. So it's a lot of the cleanup that goes along with the mowing. So we plan on contracting it out, and that's where you got the information from Third, because they're doing the same thing. They're going to contract out mowing as well. It's in your budget, it's in their budget. So those hours will be moved over to shrub bed maintenance. So it's just a part of the work. It's not that they just go out and blow. It's a part of the work that has to do with mowing.
Well, I thought he had said, the person I spoke to had said that they were eliminating the leaf blowing.
No, they're contracting out mowing. So the blowing is a part of the cleanup of mowing. So when they look at the line items that are, we give you the line item labor hours that go along with each one of the line items in the budget. So if you look at the budget, you'll see there's $60,000 worth of labor hours attributed to blowing. And that's part of the mowing tasks. So there's mowing, there's edging, and there's cleanup. So part of the cleanup is mowing. So they're not eliminating leaf blowing, they're contracting out mowing. And that's part of the tasks of mowing.
So are you saying they're not eliminating, because I thought he said they were eliminating the blowing.
No, if we eliminate blowing, we have to sweep.
Yeah.
We have to clean up somehow, and sweeping takes 5 times longer than blowing.
Well, I guess from what I've seen in my neighborhood is they'll be blowing dirt basically from one side to the other in the parking area. And then when they've been maybe hoeing or edging in the neighborhood, there's a lot of dirt a lot of times left on the sidewalk, and it just blows around. But I don't know. I thought he had said they were
I
eliminating.
realize sometimes it seems like blowing makes more mess than it cleans up, but the industry-wide, everyone uses blowers. It's much faster and more efficient than trying to sweep up. You know, you've heard me say that we've got 156 miles of edging to do here every week, and can you imagine sweeping all of that?
Right.
That would take us a week or more. So it's the most efficient way. Unfortunately, it's not the cleanest way, but it is the most efficient and cheapest way for you to do it.
Thank you.
Is she possibly talking about carport cleaning?
No, she's talking about the cleaning. In the budget, there is about $64,000 for United on the line items for blowing, but that's a part of with other tasks too, but the bulk of that goes along with the mowing, because it's a big part of mowing is cleaning up.
Well, I guess what seems to be occurring in my neighborhood is it's in the parking area. So they're walking around in the park where there hasn't been any or any edging or anything, and just blowing it. And I think we have people who come through and rents every once in a while anyway. So it's just seemed, I'm looking for ways to cut our expenses, and I'd like to see more of that or hear more of that, because I think there are ways we can do it. But I'd rather not see us just walked into bankruptcy or something like that. So anyway, just looking for ways to save money.
If I might, is that okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Chairman. Last year, we looked at that too, because we're always desperate to try to cut back on funding. And we looked at whether or not it would be a good idea to just stop doing the cleaning in the carports and, save some money that way. And then staff came back and said, you're not going to save any money by doing that, because people are going to call and complain individually, and we'll have to send people back over. And it is a basic maintenance thing to keep the carports clean. So we did look at that.
Well, I just think people have complained about the noise from the blowing, but in my neighborhood, when they do the edging, they're not blowing the dirt back off the sidewalk onto the lawn part. It's just leaving there. It's just been left there. And I've even gone out with a broom before to push the dirt back onto where it belongs from the sidewalk. So I'm not talking about that, although they're not cleaning it off the sidewalk. But I'm just talking about, I see no point in blowing it around a parking lot. And they're not blowing dirt away. They're just blowing and
Well,
making
unless
noise.
it can, save a lot of money at this time, I think, there are some other time that we discuss about those detail works. So thank you. This is major budget time. And Nancy, please.
Yeah, well, Kurt's here, I want to say, I'm a proponent of saving money, that's clear, and you can tell I'm a proponent of ways to generate revenue. But one thing I do not want to see curtail in services, and in fact, I think I would like to see them improve, is landscaping, period. It's looking overgrown. That's not anybody's fault. It could be a contributor is that we had a lot of rain this year, but everything's looking a little rough to me. And I hired a gardener for other reasons to do some things that I like to do in my little garden area, but also because it is a little bit overgrown. And I know we were cutting things back, but I think it's a mistake. This is our property values, and we have a mid-century, and here I joke about it's not mid-century modern, it looks like mid-century military a lot. But I want to see everything look sharp, and the residents, many don't play golf and see the beauty of the golf course and how well it's trimmed. That is their judgment on how we handle their affairs. It's as simple as that.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
Yes, but with 2 more rounds a year, that will really improve the appearance. That's what we really need is to
Right,
catch
so
up.
we like to have a minimum budget but maximum service. That's our goal, right?
That's right.
Okay, that's why we've been working so hard. All right, any other question, Tom, please?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but we have a $2.8 million reserve fund deficit this year.
I know.
And that deficit probably could even increase because we keep seeing special needs to increase contracts because expenses are going up. And we're just inside the high risk rating for special assessment, which is basically a weak rating for our reserve fund.
Right.
And if you look at that now, by 2028, our reserve fund's going to be in a critical area.
Yes.
And I mean critical.
Right.
And we need to do more for the reserve fund and bring that into balance.
Right.
And we're going the wrong direction with the reserve fund right now. And I'm not against the increase in services for the shrub bed maintenance and everything, but I put a higher priority on the reserve fund than I do on the increase in shrub bed maintenance. And that's not against Kurt or landscaping or anything, but the reserve funds are too critical. And they're getting worse, not better. And that's even with the projected $15 per man or per month increase every year. So with that, I'm going to make a motion to remove the increase of $485,000 for shrub bed maintenance cycles and add that $485,000 to the reserve fund contribution, which basically means you're going to add $6.39 to the reserve fund and remove the increase in the shrub bed maintenance cycles in the operating fund. And I know that's not real popular, but the reserve fund is more critical, and we have a duty, fiduciary duty, to make sure that reserve fund's at a proper level, and it's not at a proper level, and it won't be at the direction we're going right now.
Is there any second?
I second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes, I would like to have, if Kurt has some response to this as well, I'd like him to be able to respond. But we have, a lot of complaints that come into our area, into the landscape committee, and it's constantly on, they want more service. And so we have tried really hard to increase this to meet those complaints. And I'm concerned about our property values.
Yeah.
We don't look nearly as good as Third. And if I was coming in now to buy in this area, I would buy in Third. And I love United, but our shrubs are out of date, they're overgrown. People complain all the time about it, so we were trying to address it. And we were also trying to address the mowing issues that we currently have. So I would ask for a no vote on this.
Nancy, please.
I think we're on the cusp of some other decisions that are offsetting, which is, we're talking about if it's, infrastructure fee, et cetera. And I think that's important because as people coming in, their impression is important, and it is about a property value. And to me, that's the offsetting mitigating factor. And you know that I'm very cost conscious and all that, but this is the exception to the rule for me in this particular instance. I do not want to see any of that. I'm willing to spend that money because I think it will pay off in the long run quickly, and that we justifying an infrastructure fee and keeping everything looking really smart and sharp, and considering the age and what the architectural image is. I think that's really important because it will not get us challenged so much on the infrastructure fee. These are people who are taking on top of it. This is part of buying into it. If you buy into a country club, you're going to be paying $25,000 or $30,000.
Right.
I know that I had to. And so those things aren't shocking to people. And candidly, we see the escrow papers. Everybody's coming in and buying with cash. So we're not really seeing people who are, hand to mouth.
Okay.
So I don't want to see the landscaping cut for that reason, so that's where I respectfully dissent with Tom's proposal on that. I think I actually want to see it improved and sharp, and our residents will be happy. I think people coming in will be happy, and we're likely to have better resales.
Thank you. Any other question? Pro or con? Okay.
Yes, I agree with Nancy. People have been waiting a long time for another rotation or two in landscape, and they've been promised it, and they're really, really happy. And they've just had all that they can bear on that, and so I think the 2 extra rounds will make a huge difference in the feel of the community. They'll be satisfied. We are giving them a raise, and they'll be satisfied if the appearance improves. If they don't see anything physical improving, they're not going to be happy at all. So I would say stick with the plan. Thank you.
Any other?
I'd just like to add, one of the things that I wanted us to do, because we're going to be raising our United Basic Assessment to $87, by $87.15, was I wanted to show people what additional things they're getting, not just keeping up with the cost of living, but there's actually something concrete that they're getting more. The 2 shrub bed cleanings is in that quarter.
That's one of the defense points. All right. Any other comment? Yes.
Thank you, Madam
Yes,
Chair.
Alison.
Well, I want it all, and I want it for nothing, and I want it now. I want it all. I want more shrub bed maintenance. I want everything to be gorgeous. I also want to be 40 again, but that's another subject. No, seriously, perhaps an alternative revenue source can be found. Perhaps we might offer to people who want enhanced gardening service that they can pay for it, a modest amount. They can contract for it with landscaping. It might be a chargeable service that could be added. So, I mean, there are alternatives, but when it comes to this very, very tough decision of where can we charge? Where do we have to be good stewards of the future? This is a tough one.
Right.
We want to live in the present, but we've got to also keep our eye on the future. So I seconded this motion for the sake of discussion, and I'm glad we're talking about it, because we do want it all.
Sure. Yes, Tony, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's classic horns of a dilemma. The reserves are absolutely critical. I've seen
Yes.
companies go out of business for tapping their reserves. But coming in now, you're getting less bang for your buck. I mean, so we're in the horns of a dilemma. People want services, and then we have to keep the reserves up. So it's a really critical situation we're in, and we should keep working on it. I don't know what the
Of
right
course.
answer is right now, but we got to keep working on it. Thank you.
So I hope the ad hoc committee really comes up with a good idea to increase revenue so that next year our reserve fund goes up, right? Okay, any more comment? Yes.
Sorry, for a direction from the board. As of right now, Jose mentioned earlier that we have $15 being added into this reserve balance on an annual basis, on a monthly basis. And that's going to take place all the way through 2032. If at the board's direction you want to see an acceleration out of the red and sooner into the yellow, gold being the green, if you were to add an additional $5, that would contribute an additional $380,000 per year. So if that's just from a plan perspective. Obviously, the future boards will decide what you want to do with it. So, but that is a number that you have the ability to play with. I applaud the efforts of the board for adding in that $15 year-over-year increase. So, but if it's something that you were interested in, we could change that for another version that we can present to you at the final. And then again, that might bring you back out of the red in, say, 1 to 2 years, maybe even 3 years sooner than anticipated. But I'll leave that at the direction of the board.
Okay, all right. Yes, Tom.
I'll just remind everybody, one of the reasons we have trouble this year is because we planned on revenue that we were hoping to get that didn't come in.
Right.
And it was not the fault of finance people. It was basically based on history and everything, and we'd have probably still done the service of getting damage restoration caught up because it was 3 years behind.
Right.
But again, when we start talking about an infrastructure fee or something like that, we're planning on money we don't have yet.
Exactly.
And we could cause the same problem we're talking about again. So I'm all for things looking great, but we have a fiduciary duty first.
Yes.
Before we even have the looking great duty. And our reserve fund is critical, and they're telling us it's critical. And if we don't do anything, we're ignoring what the experts are saying.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Dick.
Yeah, it's a tough problem. I just want to throw one other thought out. I'm sure you thought of it. People who are astute, who are buying into a place, sometimes their real estate agent will inform them. Have you looked at the reserves? And so that may deter some people from coming here, because that's what some people look at. Am I going to be in danger of a special assessment? So that just puts further, I'm sorry to add that to you, but that's something you have to consider.
Right.
I don't know how you're going to solve the problem, other than what I suggested before. There are two major proposals that you should take a look at right away that are coming out of the ad hoc committee, and let's see if we could speed them up.
Thank you. Any other comment or? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, right? So we are cutting $485,000 increase shrub bed moving cycle from 4 to 6 and move that $6.39 of assessment fee to the reserve fund. That's the motion, right? Are we ready to vote? Okay, if you consent a motion, raise your hand. Four. Tony, are you raising hand or not? No? Okay, 4. And oppose, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion failed. So we are going back to the original budget business plan. Is there any other motion? Comment? No.
Yes.
Oh, yes? Oh, Nancy, all right.
I move that the ad hoc committee's recommendations be considered before the terminus of the committee.
Okay, sure. Is any second? Okay. All stay, consent motion? Oh,
What do you mean?
Maggie.
I
What do you
didn't
mean?
understand the motion, please. I don't.
The ad hoc committee had a 90-day window, at which time, at the conclusion, at the terminus of the window, we would have made presentations. I don't think we really want to wait at this point, so I move that we start acting on some of the recommendations that we're putting forth
By when?
ASAP.
By acting, you mean investigating?
No, we've already been investigating.
Are there
I think
any-
there's some that we can really
Anything
move
ready
to.
for instant installation, you mean?
No, it would be that we would involve staff to really give us, to move in the direction. I think that the 90 days, I don't think we should need to wait for that. I want to just see this move forward.
So any timeline? Any comment from Steve? Please.
So
We're in
I
August,
want to
it's in
say
September,
the-
so it would be within, well, all right, I guess
Correct.
it's almost moot point.
It's-
I'll withdraw my motion, because
Okay.
we're in the middle of August.
Okay, all right. Withdraw the motion. All right, then nothing on table, Tom, please.
I just make one correction. The vote would have been 4-4.
Is that
and-
4-4?
And still failed.
4-5. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so 4-4. So still defeated, right? Thank you for correction. My math was not. Okay.
So Steve offered a suggestion here as far as what do you want to see. So staff would like some direction as far as what you want to see at your September meeting. His suggestion was, hey, right now we're showing you $14 for 2025 and then $15 for a whole bunch of years. Do you want to see that, or do you want to see the $14 for 2025 and $20 in subsequent years until we get to the yellow?
Okay.
Madam
Yes.
Chair? Yes, I would like to see us add that, because in damage restoration and that recovery, I think it was like $7 or something, and we won't have to have that for the following year, the shortfall.
Right.
And so we could apply that
Correct.
to the reserve funding, and then we would not be up against this 20%. It would be in the following year. So I think we should increase it in the future to $20 or whatever the group feels appropriate.
No, it's not clear.
Pardon, Nancy? They wanted it so that they could prepare the budget.
Correct. We would appreciate a motion if that's something the board is interested in. And then if that's the case, we would, by the time you see the reserve study next, we would have that incorporated.
Okay.
Okay,
Correct.
Madam Chair?
And again, this is
Okay.
just a reserve study, so.
Okay, so can you just make it clear the motion itself, please?
So the motion would be to change the existing $15 per man or per month contribution beginning in 2026 to $20
To $20. Okay, that is the motion.
until that time that your balance gets into the yellow.
Okay. All right. Second. Is there any second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, discussion. Yes,
No,
Tom.
I wanted to amend that motion then to make it where it's a balanced budget
Oh, no.
and not just a flat amount, so we can see what the actual amount would be to balance the budget, because right now we're running deficit year after year after year, and we need to balance the budget, not just a certain amount. Now, it may be more than $20, but I think that's the number we should work towards and then
Okay.
adjust it from that point.
All right.
So
So-
my amended motion would be to bring us a balanced budget in the future versus just a set amount, and then we'll work it from there. So
Okay.
that's my amended motion, if somebody will second it.
Second. All right. It's Nancy. Do you have a comment?
Well, I don't have a problem with the amended motion, because once the budget comes, we can always, shave it back.
Right.
So let's
Okay.
do that. Let's let
Okay,
that be
then
the game plan.
let's vote on the amendment. If you approve the amendment, please raise your hand.
Sure, I'll go for it.
Okay, 7.
Yeah.
So it's passed. So now let's go back to the main motion. Is there anybody who is? No, amendment, we have to vote back to the main motion. So if there's Okay, make the amended motion. Can you make it clear, please?
So the amended motion is to change the reserve plan contributions to have the reserve funding match the expenses until that time when the funding gets into the medium special assessment risk.
Okay, understand the whole motion, right? So anyone who consent to motion, raise your hand.
I thought we voted for that. Okay,
Not yet.
all right.
Okay, all agree.
Okay.
So, motion approved.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll withdraw my second, so we don't have to go back to the,
No, we are
It's
done
done,
now.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
we all done now.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Dick.
Clarification. What do you think that might be in terms of dollars? Is it going to be $50, $60?
30.
Well,
Our preliminary look at it is about $30.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yes, Georgiana.
This is just a little technical thing. On page 2 of 35, close to the bottom, I see the word thirds reserve, so I'm thinking maybe that's boilerplate and it should say United's. Or,
Okay.
so,
All right.
Thank you, you're
Thank
correct.
you.
We'll make sure that gets corrected.
Oh,
Bless you.
bless you. All right, any other comment, any question? Any comment from staff? No.
No, thank you.
Hearing none, I think it's been done. Thank you very much for all your work, staff and board members, and we finished a very difficult decision today. Thank you. Is there any motion to adjourn the meeting? So moved. Second? Any objection? Thank you.